Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to have a conversation that I think is really important for pretty much anybody who is consuming media today and talking about it on the internet. And that's the idea that it is okay to criticize the things that you love. And it's okay to have mixed feelings on the things that you enjoy. And yeah, so this is going to mostly be about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I do feel like it can kind of apply to anything, and it's really important. So some background for why I'm even making a video like this at all is, you guys know, on this channel especially, I talk about Yu-Gi-Oh a lot, right? We criticize it sometimes we praise it, we talk about different issues within the community, issues around products, accessibility, all these different things. And I get a lot of responses to the videos that I make and the posts on social media and all of that stuff, right? Some people feel like I complain way too much about Yu-Gi-Oh! To the extent that they'll say, like, you want Yu-Gi-Oh! Dead, or you are trying to kill the game, you'd like to see the game die, if you don't like it, then you should just quit. I also see people who tend to agree with a lot of the takes that I have, but even among those people, they'll sometimes be confused by the fact that I still compete in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I've been going to a lot of regionals lately and things like that, and sometimes I like to, share my experiences or how I did or things that I've noticed at these regionals. And like one of the more recent videos that I made was sort of talking about how if you're going to a regional, then you kind of got to like really prepare for it and toughen up and be ready to deal with all the many crazy things that you'll encounter. The strong cards that are difficult to out, the annoying hand traps that impede your plays. You got to have a game plan for all of it because that's what it means to compete at a regional. And so when I make videos like that or posts about that, I'll get people who are like, what? Like I thought you were, an ally to the casual Yu-Gi-Oh player. I thought that you stood for the mid-core of Yu-Gi-Oh. Why are you suddenly endorsing, these broken cards that clearly need to be banned, or Konami's horrible business practices, or they need to change tournaments. You shouldn't, all these things. And so it can be a lot to take in and read all these different things swirling around about you. That's, I guess, what I signed up for as a content creator. But some people think that I am a hypocrite this way, or I'm a hypocrite that way, or that for whatever reason I'm just flip-flopping on Yu-Gi-Oh opinions and all of that, and I'm just saying whatever gets some buzz, and that's the end of the day. So I wanted to basically make this video to kind of explain where I stand in all of this and make the broader point that it's okay to just have mixed feelings on things. So when it comes to casual Yu-Gi-Oh, kind of the average man's Yu-Gi-Oh, we'll call it mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh even, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh's got some really serious issues, right? I think that product right now has not been doing very well. I think that this is kind of something that's more of an objective truth than like even an opinionated one. I mean, you can go to most card shops and you will see that Yu-Gi-Oh products, the market price in them in TCG Player, really, really low. Not a lot of people really want it. A lot of products sit on shelves and rot, and it's a bit of a shame because, I like Yu-Gi-Oh and I would love to see more people playing it, but when the card shops don't want to stock Yu-Gi-Oh, that can ultimately, lead to the game's entire demise. Like a shop might just choose not to stock Yu-Gi-Oh products anymore, and that would suck. Also, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh's got some accessibility problems. There aren't really great methods of onboarding people into the game. It's got a reputation for being really intimidating to outsiders, really hard to understand, and I've yet to really see products that do much to correct that. There are certainly like steps they've taken. I mean, they made that two-player starter deck a couple years ago. I didn't think it was a very effective product. I don't think that it really reflects what modern Yu-Gi-Oh is like, and it also had some just literally like sort of mechanical issues in it, like not having a game bat and like not explaining all the extract mechanics. So that was a little bit strange, but it's an attempt. There's also the legendary modern decks that have been coming out and stuff. So those look like they're supposed to be more gateway tools, but it's still a really big issue that Yu-Gi-Oh's got. And so as far as that's concerned, it means that Yu-Gi-Oh is a hard game to approach and therefore won't grow. And again, I like Yu-Gi-Oh, so I'd really like to see the game be an approachable thing. Now, some people might not feel like these are really big issues, right? Like if you're a competitive player, you might get your cards kind of either way. Like a card like Forbidden Crown or the new Albaz Fallen Dragon thing, it doesn't really matter if it's expensive or cheap, or if the product's good or bad, or if it sells or not, because you're gonna get those cards to compete. So what do you really care how a product does? Similarly, if you're maybe a competitive player, then the game's, accessibility doesn't matter to you. It doesn't really mean anything, right? Like you're good at the game, you go to the regionals, you go to the YCS events. Why do you care if, little Timmy can learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or even wants to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It doesn't really change your experience, seemingly anyway. So, it's kind of one of those sorts of things. And the last thing is, I don't think that Yu-Gi-Oh's got casual formats. I've talked about this a lot. I think that, if you want to sink your teeth into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's a lot of fun. It's very deep. It's very challenging, so know what you're signing up for, but it can feel very gratifying and fulfilling. And so in that way, I think that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really fun once you get past maybe that hurdle if you are into, the high octane, super competitive, super nuanced, like sort of that style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Great, wonderful, very fun. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not a very chill game where you can just sit and relax and play. There isn't really something like a Commander format that you can just casually play with your friends on a Friday night. The power levels are really wonky between a lot of decks, and there's not really a format for it. Genesis hasn't proven to exactly be that. I think there might be some value in maybe like 0 Point Genesis, but that doesn't seem to be super explored. And you can, of course, make fan formats, but it would always be nice if Konami themselves could maybe change card design to lower power levels, or maybe like make a format that actually feels closer to the lower power level thing that people want. But regardless, those are just, thoughts and concerns that I have. So, with all that aside, why is it then that I'm still like playing Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like if I'm complaining about it all the time, then what the hell am I doing going to these regionals? Like what is that about? And like why am I talking about regionals in this very like, tough love sort of way? Like that's the way it is, you have to get better, don't just blame Konami. What? But like you spent your whole career blaming Konami. Like isn't that pretty much, how you make your money is just saying that Yu-Gi-Oh's dying every week and that these things need to change and Konami's not doing a good job. I trusted you, Paul, right? Like you're supposed to be our ally. You're supposed to be our friend. And so people see me going to these regionals and it's like, well, what the hell? What is going on here? So to clarify all of this, I consider myself to be many different Yu-Gi-Oh players. I consider myself to kind of be a person who wears many different hats in Yu-Gi-Oh. When I go to a regional or a YCS event, I prepare a lot, I really lock in, I grind, and I kind of throw all of that other stuff out of my mind when it comes to like sitting down to play against my opponent. So one of the cards I talk about a lot is like Lunalight Liger Dancer, a really powerful Towers-like card that's tough to out for a lot of decks and people don't like it. So some people think that Lunalight Liger Dancer should be banned, or that Lunalight should be nerfed in some other way, or being able to make 2 Lunalight Liger Dancers is really unfair, so maybe they should limit it to 1. Those are all totally valid thoughts and interesting conversations in their own right. I actually even agree with them. I think it'd be great if like Liger Dancer was just maybe at 1 instead of at 2 or something like that. But when it comes to playing in a tournament, it's still currently legal and at 3, and so it doesn't actually matter what I think about the card's power level or the game design behind it or whether or not it should be banned, because I chose to enter this tournament, so this is what I'm going to have to deal with. People are going to make it because it's legal, and so as a competitor, if I want to win, then I need to have some kind of a game plan for it. Same goes for Molcharmies or Droll Lockbird, or even just the general fact that Yu-Gi-Oh's got really, really long combos and really, really obscenely powerful decks. I've gone on record as saying I don't really like the way that modern Yu-Gi-Oh plays out all the time. I don't like long turns, I don't like Omni Negates, I don't love generic extra deck cards, I don't like decks that bridge into 3 different engines. But if I'm playing in a tournament, none of my personal opinions on that stuff really matters. I'm in the tournament, people are gonna play it, I gotta beat it if I wanna win. So as far as I'm concerned, that stuff does not matter, right? Like it doesn't matter what I think about Yu-Gi-Oh's design and direction and all that. I just gotta play it. And I like that. I like challenging myself to sort of think about Yu-Gi-Oh strictly engaging with it on its own terms, right? When I go to these regionals and stuff, that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing, is just getting a real taste of what modern Yu-Gi-Oh is like and, challenging myself to see if I can beat it. I still hold to my own laurels when I do that. I still try to play decks that aren't necessarily like the top of the meta, but that I still feel can like compete. That's why I'm using junk like Rescue Ace of all things. And I'm proud of myself when I do well. So I think that there's definitely something to be said there. Now, conversely, when I go to my local card shop, or even when I go to maybe like a normal convention, right? Like an anime convention where the crowd is a lot more casual and a lot more like nostalgic, right? You'll find these people who I remember Yu-Gi-Oh, or maybe I quit Yu-Gi-Oh back in 2014 with the Pendulums, or maybe 2017 with the Lynx. I can similarly sympathize with those people, because in that setting where we're not, trying to cut each other's throats, it's difficult to really like Yu-Gi-Oh sometimes. Like it's easy to feel like it's maybe gotten beyond you. So, you want to teach somebody how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! At a convention in a card game room, and suddenly you realize, man, this game is really freaking hard to teach, and Konami is not making my job any easier. There's not really any great products for this. There's not really a way to explain what the heck, starters and extenders and hand traps and board breakers and chains and, chain blocking and all these things. It's a really tough game, and so sometimes I wish that there was a more chill way to teach Yu-Gi-Oh! And play Yu-Gi-Oh! Without, everybody being super duper on edge and walking on eggshells while they play. But those are just two different scenarios, two different settings. And I have beliefs about both of them. I think that in a perfect world, everybody can just play Yu-Gi-Oh! And enjoy it. In that way, I sometimes feel very envious of games like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, and even like One Piece and Gundam and stuff, because I do think that they strike a closer balance between, competitive depth, but also accessibility and casual play. It feels like with Yu-Gi-Oh! There's not really that same distinction, or that same, I suppose, like pendulum, nuance, spectrum, whatever you want to call it. It's like you're either all in or you're just ostracized and out. Like, generally speaking, that's sometimes how it feels. So if you enjoy being all in, good for you. But if you don't enjoy that, then there's not very much to offer you. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say that it's possible to have very conflicting, ambivalent opinions about the things that you like. I really, really like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, more than just playing it. Like, I really, really like collecting it. I've got a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Merchandise. And if you've followed me on social media, like I'm always buying, new figures, and I have like a giant pot of greed. I've got a bunch of giant cards behind me. I've got lots of plushes and all kinds of things. Like, I've got Yu-Gi-Oh! Merch, old stuff, new stuff. I like the anime. I like all of these things. So it isn't really like, I don't see why people would think that like I want Yu-Gi-Oh! To die, or that like I need to just quit it, because I mean, clearly I enjoy it. And one last thing that I think that I should actually add, because a lot of people don't understand this, sorry, my voice is like continually dying as I do this video, I'm a little bit sick right now, is that it's okay to sort of empathize with people who aren't playing the same type of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you are. So even though I can compete in Yu-Gi-Oh! And get really like nitty gritty and get into it, that doesn't mean that like I can't empathize with casual players. It's also worth noting that I'm not the one who actually needs an entry-level product. When I say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Can feel overwhelming or feel difficult to learn, it isn't that I don't know how to play it. I actually know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Quite well. I've been a judge, I've done commentary, I've obviously played it for a very long time. I know all of the nuances of rulings and all of that stuff. So it isn't really for me. I think people sometimes hear me say that and assume that I must be like, this super casual new player who just doesn't get any of this. I'm actually not overwhelmed by Yu-Gi-Oh! Personally, but I see so many people who want to play it that feel that way. And so that's what I mean when I say Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs better onboarding tools. Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs more casual formats. Yu-Gi-Oh! Could probably afford to like slow down the general power level and card design even in modern play, even in like the highest level tournaments. It'd be nice if maybe decks weren't doing so much all the time. I totally get it. Like, I can hang with that if I have to. If I have to play in a regional, then that's going to be just what's asked of me. But that doesn't mean that I'm not like sympathetic to the plight of the average casual player or maybe the mid-core player. So, just because I'm advocating for them doesn't mean that I'm necessarily one of them. It's okay to be an ally after all. And again, the same goes for like super competitive types. There are people who, they grind like Worlds points and they grind Master Duel, Duelist Cups and all this stuff. And they might hear what I have to say and think that it's just kind of strange and bizarre because like I mentioned before, well, they understand Yu-Gi-Oh! So what does it matter to them if the products aren't selling or if like new players aren't coming into the game, because that's not their problem. But I still think that even like those types could afford to maybe see things from another lens, right? Like, it's important to just view the game from a lot of different perspectives. It gives you a really full look at things. The last thing that I want to mention too is how I do feel like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community as a whole tends to sort of take badly to just general criticism of the game. This is something that I've noticed for myself, and other like YouTubers or just outsiders who like will be on Twitter or YouTube or something, and they'll make a video about how like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has sort of lost the plot. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has lost its way. It's not the game that I remember. And these people will be called Yu-Gi boomers. These people will be called complainers. They just don't get it. And like they'll sort of be like seen as like villains, these outsiders that need to be, gotten rid of. We must exterminate them. I don't understand this because like I get it. if you view Yu-Gi-Oh as like your entire identity, it's the game that you like, then it will feel like when an outsider comes in and they're saying something negative about your game, perhaps it feels like it's like a bad faith criticism, they don't know the full story. It's easy to sort of let your emotions get activated and go after them because they're the bad guy now, right? Like they're the invader. And so we need to sort of team up to like push them out, let them know that they're wrong, they're stupid, and they don't know what they're talking about. It's okay to be mean to them because they're the enemy. I don't really like get with any of that. I think that if someone shows up and they've got criticisms about your game, it might not be coming from a great place, maybe, maybe not, but it is like a point of view. In fact, there's probably a reason why so many people from the outside seem to like still view Yu-Gi-Oh that way, where it's like, what happened to this game that I used to know and love? And, you know, it's complicated, but I guess the best thing I can say is that it's important to try to engage meaningfully with people like that. You know, instead of sort of just saying like, you don't get it, you're just a Yugi boomer, whatever, this happens every year. It's like, well, no, like talk to them, hear what they have to say, maybe acknowledge that some of their concerns are valid. They might be looking for something different out of Yu-Gi-Oh than what it maybe currently offers. I don't think anybody would say it's like controversial to assume, to feel that like today's Yu-Gi-Oh and yesteryear's Yu-Gi-Oh are just two different games, right? It's not a matter of like better or worse. It's that like playing Yu-Gi-Oh in 2026 and playing Yu-Gi-Oh in like 2006, they're just it's different Yu-Gi-Ohs. Like they have different things. They offer different perks and benefits, and they sort of test for different skill sets and whatever. So it isn't like, you know, I think that almost like muddies the waters, is that they both happen to share the name Yu-Gi-Oh, but they really could not be any more different. So when you keep that in mind, though, I think it's actually a lot easier to have a dialogue with people like that because, you know, they want something different from Yu-Gi-Oh than you do, but that doesn't mean that you can't like kind of meet in the middle, find some common ground. It's funny, you know, I keep saying this is the last thing I'm going to mention. Another thing I should probably mention too is when I make these videos, sometimes I'll talk about like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. I'll cover news from that. And it's funny, I've noticed that people, even in those communities, will treat me that way. So like when I covered the Magic the Gathering lawsuit or that one secret layer controversy with the mixed pricing, I got people in my comments who are like, oh, well, like you're supposed to be like a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Why are you covering Magic? Like stick to Yu-Gi-Oh. Or they'll say things like, you know, well, at least, you know, our game actually sells, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, nobody even wants to buy the product, or unlike Yu-Gi-Oh where the turns take 10 minutes, and it's kind of like, they'll say that as a sort of maybe like a gotcha argument, like, you know, they insulted Yu-Gi-Oh, therefore they insulted me, therefore they shut me down, and like that's the end of the thing. When I hear that, it's kind of like, well, no, that's a valid point. Yu-Gi-Oh has product problems, and it has 10-minute turns sometimes. So I mean, like, you know, you're not saying anything wrong, but I don't actually identify myself as like Yu-Gi-Oh equals me. Like somebody insulting Yu-Gi-Oh they're not insulting me. It's not like a, you know, I think some people view it that way, right? Where like we're in these different card game camps, and so like anything that's a win for Magic is a loss for Yu-Gi-Oh. Anything that's a win for Yu-Gi-Oh is a loss for Pokemon. One game does this well, therefore the others do it badly, and like, you know, it's zero-sum games. No, 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 no. I mean, I've dabbled in all of these card games, and I know a little bit about each one. I mostly play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't have a problem with another card game doing something better than Yu-Gi-Oh. If anything, that just means it's inspiration that Yu-Gi-Oh can probably take. And, you know, you don't have to try to emulate a card game entirely, right? Like some people maybe want Yu-Gi-Oh to be, okay, I'm fine now. I need to hurry and finish this video. Some people want Yu-Gi-Oh to like be entirely like Magic the Gathering and do Universes Beyond, or be entirely like Pokemon and be super collectible and stuff and like have scalpers. I don't think that Yu-Gi-Oh needs to be any one game. I don't think any game needs to try to be like exactly like the others, because there's not like a perfect one. But, you know, it's fine to just acknowledge that all these games do a little bit of something differently well, and that's okay. Okay, well, while my voice is crying for me to stop this video, I will just end this by saying it is totally normal to have mixed thoughts on the things that you enjoy. If you like a certain movie franchise, it's hard to hear somebody say that it's bad, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong, and it doesn't mean that you can't still listen to them and accept what they're saying as maybe coming from a valid place. Even if you don't agree with it, it's like, oh, I can see how you might interpret this movie that way. I see how you might interpret this song that way. That is kind of a flaw that this game has and can maybe afford to like change. I think it'd actually be more strange if you unilaterally just unconditionally love something and identify with it completely, because that feels unhealthy and weird. Like there's, you know, you should not think that any one person or any one thing is absolute perfection and the best of the best and can do no wrong because, well, we know how that kind of ends up, right? Like, a cult or something. So yeah, all right, that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and maybe found it informative, clarifying. I know that it's easy to listen to me talk about all this stuff and think that like I must fall on one side or the other side and like that's as far as it goes. And like, I'm just an ally to the filthy casual Yugi boomer or, I've switched sides and now I'm like just trying to act like a competitive tryhard. No, I'm just a Yu-Gi-Oh player who kind of wants everybody to be happy, and I have no problem with critiquing the game that I love so much. I want it to do better so more people could play it and enjoy it, and that would be good. Okay, that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought of any of the stuff that I was saying. I would love to dialogue with you guys. Try to, if you found something that I said in this video to be offensive, which I hope that you didn't, because, I don't feel like I said anything really all that mean or rude. Make sure that you listen very carefully to what I've said in this video. And then you can leave your comment and I'll probably try to answer it. It'll be great, it'll be fun. Okay, that's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, and thumbs up and like YouTube things. Okay, pass turn.